Welcome back to Iraq now, where votes are still being counted following yesterday's elections. Turnout was at a record low, with many Iraqis staying away from the polls in protest at corruption, mismanagement and high unemployment. Ariel Osran has this report.
As the final results of Iraq's parliamentary elections continue to roll in, one thing is already clear. It had the lowest voter turnout in the post-Saddam Hussein era. According to preliminary figures by the country's election commission, only 41% of eligible voters made it to the polls. But ahead of Sunday's elections, Iraq's fifth since the U.S.-led invasion in 2003, its leaders had tried to sound hopeful.
I believe that broad participation in the election will be a turning point in our country's destiny. It will realize the true representation of the people and impose their will. It will also close the road to saboteurs and those who try to manipulate the fate of the country.
More than 3,200 candidates competed for 329 seats in parliament. And it's groups from the Shiite Muslim majority who are expected to come out on top. But divisions in the Shiite bloc run deeper than ever, especially over the influence of its powerful Shiite neighbor, Iran. The prominent bloc is led by separatist cleric Muqtada Sadr, who opposes all foreign influence in Iraq, whether it's from Tehran or Washington.
Iraq is restoring its strategic and regional role. Iraq is restoring its abilities to be a strong partner in the region and not a hub for conflicts or a place where powers can get even with each other.
Opposite him is the Fatah Alliance. That's led by paramilitary leader Hadi al-Ameri and supported by the Shiite pro-Iranian militias. It hopes to expand its parliamentary presence and serve as a political base for Iran. Sunday's elections were held months ahead of schedule as a concession to the anti-corruption movement. But it will take a few weeks at least until a new government is set up. And only few Iraqis believe they will see a better future at the end of the road.
Well, for more, we're joined now on the phone by Martin Thompson, a journalist based in Baghdad. Martin, what's the latest where you are?
Following Iraq's parliamentary elections yesterday, a major take-home seems the low participation rate, which was only around about 41%, which was the lowest since of parliamentary elections since the US invasion of 2003. The key take-home, I think, as well, particularly here in Baghdad, was the fact that a lot of the people who didn't participate were the young people, and the young people who were involved in the October 2019 protest movement, or Tashreen movement, who were calling for these early elections. And the fact that they didn't participate really does degrade the legitimacy of any future parliament that does, or for any future candidates that form a government out of these parliamentary elections. In terms of the provisional results, based on what is coming out at the moment, it seems like the major winner is Sadr bloc in the Shia community in the south. Up north, the Barzani or the KDP party seem to have done also quite well, and the PUK, the opposition Kurdish party, the vote seems to have fractured slightly. In terms of going forward, it'll likely be then the Sadrist bloc, which will then negotiate and potentially be the kingmakers in parliament in terms of choosing the next prime minister. However, again, because of the low participation rate, and particularly here in Baghdad, amongst the young, where the participation rate was even lower, the fact that any government will not have as much legitimacy because of this low participation rate, and Iraq has a myriad of problems to deal with in terms of the endemic corruption and most recently the coronavirus, will mean that addressing these problems and particularly addressing the demands of the protests will be extremely difficult going forward.